Hey everybody, welcome to the I Am Podcast YouTube channel.
Make sure to tap the bell, subscribe, and comment down below. Hello everyone, welcome back.
We are so excited to be sitting here with you guys.
Yeah, and we are so excited to introduce our guest, Michelle. Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Flowerday. I am a fertility lawyer. I work out of Toronto, Ontario, but I work with people all over the world, all over Ontario, all over Canada in their family building pursuits. So it's so lovely to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm delighted to be speaking with you.
Oh, thank you.
How did fertility law find you, or how did you find fertility law?
Oh gosh, that's a fun story because it's a little bit unpredictable where I came from. So I started my career in family law. I worked at a big downtown Toronto Bay Street firm, litigating family law disputes with mostly high net worth people. And, you know, that's really important work and it takes good people and it's a really important part of the law. But after a couple of years, I decided it wasn't for me. And so correspondingly, at the same time, I was pregnant with my first. So my first child was born in 2004, and then subsequently in 2006 and 2008 are my three kids. And I stayed at home with them. I left that big firm. I stayed at home with my kids for 6 years. And when my youngest was just under 2, I thought, it was time to go back to work. I had a lot of energy and I had a lot of passion to give back to my work life. But I couldn't go back to working with families that were breaking down. Again, despite how important that work is, it wasn't my heart wasn't calling out to it. What I wanted to do was work with people working hard to build their own family the way I had just done. Having my kids was bar none the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I wanted to work with people who were struggling to have that joy. And so about 15 years ago, I started my own family fertility law. And at that time, I did a little bit of family law. I quickly dropped the family law part of my practice. And I started my own fertility law practice, as I say, about 15 years ago. I started it with a firm. And then not long after joining a firm, I left because I thought I can do this on my own. And I wanted to put my name on my firm. I wanted to build brand equity. I wanted my name behind what I did. So I started Flowerday Fertility Law. And here I am a decade and a half almost later.
That's amazing.
I've always thought you've had like the best last name. Like
Yeah.
I just think that it's just
Really
happy to
perfect marketing,
read.
yeah.
It's perfect marketing. Like it's just you can't say it without being sad. Like
happy.
yeah, like you can't. It doesn't bring you down. Like it's just a
Yeah.
great last name. I've always thought that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. My spouse was pretty convinced I would change my name when we got married, and I said, "Oh, that's just not going to happen. I'm sticking with this one."
Yeah.
So that's
so
only when
thank
your
you.
married name. That's like
That's your maiden name.
Maiden name. Hey.
Oh yeah. This is the name I was born with.
I love that.
For
I
sure.
love
I
that.
Yeah.
love that. That's so cool.
That's awesome. So Michelle,
Thank
how did
you.
how did you kind of did you know any surrogates? What
Did intended
Yeah, how
parents
did you
find
get
you?
to
How did,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I just started making contact with people. I hired a marketing person to reach out. I started reaching out to other lawyers. I started reaching out to fertility clinics. I knew some people in my social circle that could help connect me. And it really was slowly but surely building connections, building a reputation, building a roster of clients. The funny thing is, my work with Anu was my very first file.
Oh,
No
wow.
way.
That's so cool. I didn't know
Anu
that.
was my very first file, and I really will always have such gratitude for Lorraine and the way she said, "You know what, Michelle, let's work on this one together." And we did, and it wasn't the easiest of cases, but we got through it together. And and the rest is history, really.
Oh, I love that. That's very cool.
So circling back, because you didn't start in fertility law, what made you want to become a lawyer? Like, what was the drive initially?
I went to McGill University where I studied psychology, and I really loved people. I just loved working with people, and I wanted to help people solve their problems. And so I either wanted to work in the space of psychology or psychiatry or something of that nature, or law. And I do come from a family of lawyers. I'd seen that path taken. I have, happy lawyers in my family for the most part. So it looked like a career that could bring some joy. And after a lot of debate and counting the number of years it would take me to be qualified, I decided that, for a whole bunch of different factors, law would be the path that suit me best. So I took that route.
I love that. That's
So what kind of lawyers are in your family? Like, because obviously if you're a fertility lawyer, that's, as far as we know, like, you're the only one that does that.
Oh yeah, no. I'm definitely the only fertility lawyer. So I've got a couple of judges in my family. I have one judge who is a family law judge. I've got another judge who does a whole bunch of different types of cases. He's retired now, but he works in Indigenous issues and very passionate about truth and reconciliation issues. I've got a couple municipal lawyers in my family, other lawyers, but I'd say the lawyers that inspired me the most were my aunt and uncle, who both became judges and were both really passionate about advocacy, justice for underserved groups.
That's beautiful.
So how many lawyers are in your family total then? Because it sounds like there's a lot.
Right now, I'd say there's about 6,
Oh
maybe
my
7.
gosh. That's crazy.
So
In my
what is Christmas
in my
dinner
broader
like?
family,
I was gonna
I've got aunts and uncles and cousins and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, definitely 6 or 7.
So Christmas dinner is like wild.
Well, we all lived across the country, but family reunions are a little wild. We do tend to not talk about work at family gatherings, though.
That's crazy. I bet you that was very intimidating to be your spouse at like the first family, like the first big family event.
What does your husband do?
So my spouse, my husband, is in finance.
Ah.
So we met when we were 19 years old.
Aww.
So I met him my first week at McGill.
Oh, cool.
He was actually going to Concordia, the university down the street from McGill.
Yeah.
And he was playing baseball in Quebec. And so we met, and we've been together ever since. So gosh, I don't even want to say how many years that is, but you do the math. It's a lot of years. So we've been together since we were about 19.
Oh, that's very cool.
so
Yeah.
And he
And
obviously
and so
he took
he took the finance route. I think his first true love work-wise would probably be working in baseball somewhere, but he does that as a hobby, and our son plays baseball, so he's got the baseball part of his life, but he does earn a living in finance.
Oh, I love that. So Michelle, who wins all the arguments in your house?
And not me. It really depends on the issue. We've got our kids are pretty comfortable expressing their opinions. A couple of them are pretty strong-willed. So, depending on the issue, it may well not be me.
Get out negotiated. Yeah. What is your favorite thing about working in fertility law? Like, if you were to pinpoint it down to something, what would it be? That's
actually fairly easy for me to tell you. My favorite part of working in fertility law are all the people that I meet. Oh. So if you think about the issue of fertility, it spans every continuum, from everything on the continuum, of course, the LGBTQ continuum, the infertility continuum, people from all over the world, people who are all over the socioeconomic status continuum. And so this is just a universal issue that affects so many people. It's a human desire for many people to have a family. And my favorite part of my job are the variety of people I've met all over the world, all coming together to achieve a goal that is just so much part of the human experience for the people who choose to go that route. Yeah.
Totally. Oh, I love that. We were talking about that. I can't remember who it was with, but by the time you have a baby this way, like 80 people have touched that baby's life.
Yeah.
Like so cool.
Isn't it incredible when you think
really
about
is.
it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I
Yeah.
understand the hardships and all of the tough things about that.
Yeah.
But, if you get pregnant on a one night stand at the bar, it's just different.
Yeah,
It's not that those babies
is a miracle.
The amount of things that have to go right for this to work this
Yeah.
way is just truly, truly astounding.
Yeah, it is unreal.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on traditional surrogacy, Michelle?
I've got no problem with it. I think the right group of people coming together with the plan of building a family in that way, with the right supports, the right vetting, I think is perfectly acceptable. It's accepted under the law.
Right.
I think if you have, as I say, the right vetting, the right screening through a series of people, from surrogate, the surrogate herself or themselves, the intended parents, fertility counselors, lawyers involved, fertility doctors. I think all of those people have come together and done their work and vetted and supported appropriately. I think you can have really, I know you can, because I've been part of dozens and dozens of them, of successful traditional surrogacy agreements. So no issue with them.
Very cool.
How many do you say you see a year usually?
Oh gosh, maybe half dozen.
Okay.
Sort of best guess, one a month, maybe one every couple of months.
Is it a much different contract than like a donor
gestational?
Thank you, gestational surrogacy?
No,
No?
no, it's really not. We build into the contract the fact that not only is the surrogate carrying the child, surrogate is also donating ova, and so there's a portion of the agreement that deals with that. But other than that, the rest of it is the same. Everything from, of course, reimbursements to prenatal obligations, all the things a surrogate will do to take care of herself during the pregnancy, to confidentiality, to certain restrictions, travel restrictions, legal obligations to sign documents after the birth. All of that is the same, except for there is an acknowledgement that the surrogate is also ova donor.
Right. Okay.
Do you see Canadian fertility laws changing at all currently or in the near future, or do you think we're kind of at a plateau?
Or do you wish they would change?
Look, I have a lot of colleagues in the U.S. and I speak with them with some frequency. I see benefits to the model that they have in the U.S. I mean, surrogacy is legalized state by state, as opposed to in Canada. We have a piece of federal legislation, so it's surrogacy for the most part in terms of the legality of it, and the financial piece of it is a federal matter in Canada. Legal parentage is provincial. In the US, it's state by state. And so some states can have a compensated surrogacy, some ban surrogacy, some have a reimbursement framework. I think there is some merit to the discussion around a compensated framework with lots of boundaries, lots of safeguards and stipulations. I'd love to see the conversation go in that direction in Canada and see whether or not it's something that the government, Canadian society would entertain. But given the importance of the public policy issue, given the speed that the government understandably moves, I don't think we'll see too much movement anytime soon. I mean, we did just have a lot of government attention put on surrogacy recently. I mean, sort of 5 years ago, with the commencement of drafting the reimbursement regulations, and then they went into effect in June 2020. So, and I think since June 2020, the Health Canada has been otherwise occupied given the pandemic. So I'm not sure we'll see a lot of movement anytime soon, but I'd love to see us entertain that conversation.
What's your thoughts on the changes that came forward in June of 2020? Did you feel like they were mostly positive? Do you feel like they had some drawbacks? How did you feel?
I did. I think what they did is they formalized what we'd been already doing anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We had already been drafting agreements that set out a list of reimbursements that, surrogates would, expenses and reimbursements that surrogates would incur, totally related to the surrogacy, related to preparing to become pregnant, being pregnant, recovering from the pregnancy, related to donations, preparing to donate, donating, recovering from. So we'd already been drafting contracts that ensured that it was an altruistic surrogacy working in that framework. And honestly, these regulations, they just formalized what we'd been doing. I barely had to make changes to my precedent surrogacy agreement because it was already all there. And I was very supportive of it. I think at first we thought, gosh, is this going to discourage everyone? Is surrogacy and gamete donation going to decline? We've got so much need in this country. And in fact, it didn't. It didn't. I think it legitimized it. It put a framework around it. And I think it was the government stamp of approval on basically surrogacy and gamete donation.
Totally. I totally agree with you, Michelle. I think it's so important that it looks like to the world that our government is supportive.
Yeah, definitely. I think it sent that message, of course, across the country, everyone who is affected by the reimbursement regs, but also internationally.
Yeah.
So when you're doing agreements, what's your favorite side to be a part of? Or who do you enjoy representing the most? Or do you have a favorite?
I don't really have a favorite, but I love that I represent both.
Right.
Because I think it's important to have that perspective. When I'm speaking with intended parents, and of course intended parents will fall along that same continuum of people who take a certain approach to surrogacy or have a mindset or have been through certain experiences that lead them to take an approach. I'm speaking with them and they're asking me to include in the agreement certain terms that I might not find appropriate or that I have an opinion on. Right. And the reason I probably have an opinion on them is because I've spoken to surrogates and I've advocated for them and I've heard them talk about how important this particular thing is and vice versa. Right. And so I love working with both surrogates and intended parents and of course donors and intended parents because it makes me a better lawyer. Right. And it keeps my mind open because I'm always hearing the latest thinking on both sides.
Do you have a preference, Michelle, of doing donor contracts or doing surrogate contracts?
Not really. It's fun to be part of surrogacy contracts. I'm always happy to work on the donor side because I think donors are giving a really incredible gift. And as I say to my surrogacy clients who are, or my intended parent donor clients, it's probably the most important decision you're making on this whole journey is choosing the genetic, a genetic part of your child. You're going to live with that decision for the rest of your life. So I cannot underscore how important it is. But what's fun about a surrogacy journey is we do get to see intended parents through the whole journey or a surrogate through the whole journey of dreaming about doing this thing, starting the plan of execution of the journey, seeing the pregnancy, seeing the birth. It's fun to be part of that. I love that.
It is such a bigger thing.
Yeah, it's a longer relationship. It probably involves some ups and downs, which I'm perfectly fine with. I enjoy the problem solving. I enjoy the interpersonal issues. And lending my skills towards those things. So I love working on a surrogacy agreement and a surrogacy journey a ton.
So is it really truly just you or do you have some team members with you?
Oh, I've got some absolutely critical team members. This Flowerday Fertility Law does not happen without my incredible law clerks. So I have Katie, who has been with me since about March 2020. Mm-hmm. And she is absolutely wonderful. She's a former 2-time surrogate,
really?
And a law clerk. And she is passionate about this work. She's fabulous at her job. And so this doesn't happen without her.
That is so cool.
And
I
then,
had no idea that Katie was a surrogate.
Pardon
Yeah,
me?
Either.
I had no idea that Katie was a surrogate. That's very cool.
Yeah. Katie's a two-time surrogate. She did a sibling journey for a really lovely couple that she's still really close with.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Awesome.
cool. That's so cool.
And so Katie works on the front part of all of our journeys. So Katie works on all of our contracts. So she's like the first line of interaction over here. And so she takes care of that first piece. Then we get to the post-birth stuff and planning for the birth and doing all the legal stuff around the birth. And that's Alicia. And she's a newer member to the team. She's equally incredible, also a former surrogate and law clerk. And so we have a really wonderful team. So it's not just me. I've got amazing support behind me.
So when you're not chasing your family or working, what are the things that bring you joy?
Gosh, too many things for me to get really good at any of them. But I'm part of a book club. We're actually meeting tonight and going to talk about a really great book we read. So I read, and I'm part of that club. I love to knit. I love to go for walks. I'm really, really into health and well-being and nutrition and cooking and I'm really passionate about health and well-being and those issues. So I spend a lot of time putting that into actual practice and reading and learning, and try not to bug too much the people in my life who may be tired of hearing about my wellness tips. But that's pretty much how I spend my time.
So what's your number one wellness tip? Like what's your pulpit you preach from on that?
Well, two things. Food is medicine. And it's absolutely critically important that you put real food in your body. So I'm super, super careful about additives, sugars, bad oils, all those sort of things, making sure that we eat real whole food. And the other one is sleep. I'm absolutely vigilant about my sleep. I have a bedtime. Everyone knows that mom goes to bed at a certain time.
Okay,
and if it's after that time, would you say?
What time is your bedtime?
Well, I before I tell you my bedtime and I get judged, I need to tell you what time I wake up. So my alarm goes off at 4:30.
Oh my God, why?
And I'm out of bed by around 5. I'm part of what I like to call the 5 a.m. club. Mm-hmm. I love that quiet time in the morning. It's just me. My house is quiet. I think about my day. I have my coffee. I plan. I get into the right mindset for the day. And so I just absolutely love that quiet time of day. And then I am in bed, lights out, 9:30. There's not a lot other than my book club tonight. I will definitely not be in bed by 9:30. There's not a lot that throws me off course where I'm not in bed by 9:30.
Oh, this is a good one, actually. I'm quite excited about this. I think it's a really good talking piece. Is there anything you wish surrogates and donors would ask for in their agreement or stop asking for? Are there things that feel common with intended parents that really feel important? Tell us your wisdom.
Oh gosh. So something that I wish people wouldn't ask for. I think every file is unique in terms of the interpersonal dynamic between people.
Right.
And at the end of the day, what I want is to take a conciliatory approach and support their journey. I think the most important relationship, the clinics are important, the agencies are important, lawyers are important. There's lots of important relationships and dynamics in any file, but the most important one in a surrogacy file, I think, is the relationship between the surrogate and the intended parents. And so supporting that relationship and making sure it's happy, healthy, all the way through the journey is, and that everyone's protected, of course, that's a given, is my MO. So when people ask for things that I think are going to infringe on that, that's where I wish they wouldn't do that. I want to say to people, You know that's going to infringe a barrier. You know that's going to undermine this relationship. Don't ask for that. You've got other people who are vetting that. Don't ask the surrogate to have, I'm going to come up with, there's lots of examples, but for instance, a periodic drug test during the pregnancy. If you're trusting this person to carry your child, you're trusting this person to not consume toxic substances. Mm-hmm. So don't ask for things that are going to undermine the trust in the relationship, because at the end of the day, what's best for this baby, what's best for this relationship, what's best for everyone is to support the journey. So I wish people wouldn't do that. And sometimes I don't have a choice. I am here to advocate and to put forward the things that are really valued by my clients. Sometimes I can get them off that line of thinking and sort of restore a more some equilibrium in their sense of fear, because sometimes it's based in fear. Totally. And so if you take a fear-based approach, you're going to maybe cross some boundaries. But if you can step back on that, I think you'll have a sort of healthier journey.
Totally. Is there anything that you wish that surrogates and donors would ask for that they generally don't?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no. I'm there with you already. If I think there's something they should be thinking about and asking for, I apply that consistently. And I'll suggest it, and someone might say, you know what, no, I've already got that, or I don't need it, or that's not appropriate for me, and that's fine. But as long as we've gone through the long list of safeguards and protections, and we've turned our minds to all those important things, as long as I get instructions on them, I'm happy.
Oh, perfect. I know that some lawyers that we work with definitely do some traveling. Are you mostly at home?
I will. Oh, you mean traveling to meet clients, or traveling for work?
Like traveling for work to meet. Like I know lots of lawyers are here or there, or might go to Australia or the UK. Have you been doing some traveling?
I do some traveling. I've done some in the last. I definitely travel, and I love the traveling. I was in Paris meeting clients last April. That was really wonderful. I've got some trips planned for this coming year. I used to travel like crazy to meet clients face to face to sign documents. I'd be in my car driving to and from Ottawa in a day, for instance, to sign parentage papers back in the day. And although COVID was extraordinarily difficult for most of us for a whole bunch of different reasons, I'd say the best thing that happened out of COVID was
you got to
electronic signatures. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it changed my life and the lives of my clients. So I don't travel very much to meet clients anymore, to actually perform work.
Yeah.
I'll travel to meet clients and to talk about surrogacy, to speak at conferences, that sort of thing. But clients, sometimes when they're coming through to Toronto to fly out, they'll pop into my office, and that's fun. I had clients here yesterday from Argentina, and I got to meet their little baby, and it was so lovely. But that doesn't happen all the time anymore with DocuSign and Adobe Sign and all the electronic signatures. So
is that something that you enjoy, speaking at conferences?
I love it. Yeah. I love speaking at conferences. I like to be prepared. I don't like winging it.
Yeah.
So I want to know far in advance that I'm doing it. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. I learned from good people back in the day when I was newer to a particular field. And I think it's important to share the learning, to advocate. So I love doing it.
What are usually if you had, 3 things you usually get asked to speak about those kinds of things, what are people around the world or wherever you're talking usually want your information about?
They want to know what a legal journey looks like. They want to know what are the steps, how's the lawyer involved, how's the lawyer going to support their journey, what are the laws around reimbursement. I mean, that's just a huge one. People want to know it's Canada, I think, is known for its altruistic surrogacy framework, and people want to know, what does that really mean? What does it look like? What are the costs going to be? So I'd say I typically would speak about the steps involved in a surrogacy or donation journey. I walk people through what my involvement is, and then we do spend quite a bit of time on the money piece, because from a practical perspective, it's a really important part of the journey. Right? Some people are it's not easy for them to come up with the funds to have a family, and it's particularly hard. Other people can just have a family so easily, and so yeah, they want to know about the money from a practical perspective.
And how do you usually put their minds at rest? Like when you're having that conversation, what are the things you say we do here in Canada to make that easier?
Protect them.
Yeah.
I talk about the altruistic framework. I talk about the fact, of course, that surrogates and donors cannot be paid or compensated, that it must be a financially neutral endeavor for them. But I do balance that with the fact that it's really important that donors and surrogates have the things they need related to the endeavor that they're undertaking, related to the donation, of course, related to the surrogacy, that they have the things they need for a positive outcome, and so that it's a safe, healthy journey for them. So it's a balancing act by assuring people that they're not going to be taken advantage of, that we don't have, I think we could have compensated surrogacy here that's reasonable. So I don't want to use the term that we don't have compensated surrogacy, because I think there is a way to do it, but that it's not, that it's reasonable. Our approach in Canada is one of reasonableness, but again, balanced with the fact that we're not looking to nickel and dime these people who are risking so much, taking so much time to help build a family for somebody else. So it's a balancing act for sure.
Did you ever want to be a surrogate, Michelle?
I have wanted to. There's a few clients that have come across that I've crossed paths with over the years. I mean, they're all equally deserving, of course, but there have been a few stories and a few very, very, very hard, lengthy struggles that I have learned about in my time doing this work. And a couple of times I've thought, well, gosh, I'll just do it myself. I'll just carry myself. And for one reason or another, that it wasn't going to work, but I definitely have considered it.
Will this be something you're happy to do until you retire?
I will not change. I mean, gosh, we should all change and we should all want to grow, but I will not change what I do until I retire. No.
I love that. That's when you come across people who just are so passionate and are so happy in what they're doing and have because there's so much change in this world and so much, like, especially we're so different in society, from even the boomers who did one career path and stayed there forever. That's not something that's super trendy in society now.
No.
Like, there's a lot of people who really evolve and change in their working careers. So it's so beautiful to see someone who's like found what they want and is ready to stick with it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I'm definitely committed to and very invested, and my whole heart is in it. I could see over time offering different services as the world evolves, as technology evolves, but it'll definitely always be in family building for sure.
Is there really how do you handle the hard days? Because, I mean, we know the stories, and sometimes sitting and hearing these stories with others is hard as they walk through that path. How do you handle that?
I'll stew on it a little bit. The hard ones, because they get me. And then at some point I have to remember that I'm here to support, that it isn't my journey to take on personally in the same way, because there's a tendency to want to do that. Mm-hmm. But I remember what my role is and that I'm here to support, and then I brainstorm about other options. What can be done? How can I support? And then I spend time with my family, who takes my mind off of it.
You're a fixer, hey, Michelle?
Maybe a little bit.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions for us, Michelle?
Not at this time. I mean,
okay.
No. I'm sure I could think of some. I was so excited to do this with you today. This was so wonderful. I know we've been trying to do this for a little while, so this is, I'm amazing to have had this discussion.
When I got on the highway this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, if it wasn't for Michelle, I would turn around, but I want to interview Michelle so bad.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I was like, see, because Jared and I, we're not part of the 5 a.m. club. We're
No.
part of the, like, Jared and I will be brainstorming about, like, podcast things or work things or whatever. Like, it'll be 11 o'clock and we'll be texting each other.
Yeah.
And we'll be
Or
like,
we're on the phone.
or we're on the phone, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, that's our time for sure.
Yeah.
But this morning with my alarm went at 6:30, I'm like, yep, like today's the day, like this is good.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
normally a 6:30 alarm, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Well, the feeling's mutual.
Well,
Yeah,
Michelle,
that too.
thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank you.
making this happen. And sorry, us Alberta girls with Alberta roads were a little late this morning.
It actually did me some good. The extra 15 minutes, it kind of got me settled and I got more excited. And so thank you. That the
Excellent.
timing worked out just perfectly.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. And we will chat with you absolutely very soon.